Hey, everybody. Welcome to Odd and Untold, the podcast where we talk about all things strange and spooky. And this week, we're going to be talking about some UFO sightings right around my area here on Staten Island. And I'll get into that in a little bit. Before we start, I just wanted to send out some thank yous because I haven't done that in a little bit. I've been thanking a lot of our YouTube commenters and our reviewers on Apple and Spotify and all that. And thank you guys for that. We're rated like a 4.9 on Spotify, a little bit lower on Apple, again, for that one podcast we did that people just didn't like because we dared question someone's account. So maybe that number will come up at some point. But I just wanted to thank some of my other friends who I haven't thanked in a while, and I feel awful about it. So first and foremost, Dan and Dustin, my old camping buddies. I know you guys listen. And I haven't thanked you in a while. So I feel really bad about that. And I keep meaning to do it, and then I forget. So it's not that I've forgotten about you guys. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I interact with you guys on social media, and I just forget to kind of mention you guys on here. So, but this is kind of how I roll. I do this podcast and I get nervous and I have brain farts and I forget things and I really have to start writing things down, but I never do. So here we are. So Dan, Dustin, thank you guys for your support and hope to see you guys soon for a camping trip. Hopefully we'll see. My friend Stephanie, she watches on YouTube every week. We go back to high school days. So Steph, thank you for your support and for watching. And I wanted to thank some other people, and I can't mention them by name because they've requested I don't. But by doing this podcast, I've been reaching some people who have had experiences with lake monsters, with UFOs, with Bigfoot, and they've reached out to me. And these are people who don't want to come on the show. They don't want their names released. They don't want their occupations released. They don't want any identifying information released about them, which I totally respect and understand. But they have shared some stories with me. So it's really cool to hear these stories and read these stories and get these emails from people who have had these experiences, who are just regular people. They're not believers in this stuff. I mean, they are now, but these are just people who going about their jobs or their day or their vacations or whatever they're doing and encountering weird things. And they've told me their stories, and the stories are very believable. They're not like, oh yeah, I got 12 Bigfoot in my backyard and they come over for Thanksgiving dinner and we hang out every night after. Very believable stories, just very, very subtle things. Some of the people aren't even sure of what they saw. They're just sort of saying, hey, I saw this weird thing. I just wanted to tell you about it. So for all of you people who I can't name, but who write to me and reach out to me and request anonymity, thank you. If you have a story that you want to share, please shoot me an email, jason@oddanduntold.com. Again, if you want to remain anonymous, I will not share your info with anybody. I will not share your story. I will say it's I got a Bigfoot story, but beyond that, I'm not saying what these stories were. So if you do want to come on the show, we can keep your face covered or hidden. We can change your voice. If you just want to shoot me an email, I can read it on air. I've done that before too. I had somebody who reached out to me who didn't want to be on the show, but they were like, yeah, you can tell my story. And I did that. That was like a haunting in Connecticut, I believe. A few episodes back, 20 episodes or so now. Feels like not as many, but many episodes back now. I'll link to that in the description below. But I've had, that as well, where somebody would email their story to me and said, yeah, you can share this on the air. I just don't want my name being used or any identifying information, and I don't want to come on the show. And that's fine. It's hard. It's hard to have these experiences and want to share them. So I appreciate everybody who's come on the show. John, Josh, Scott, Courtney, Christy, Lori. I mean, everybody who's come on the show, Ethan, to share their stuff and kind of go public with their stories. I really do appreciate it because I know how difficult it can be. And that's why I try to share my stories, just to kind of show, like, think of me what you will, but these are the things I've experienced, and that's my truth, and I'm sticking to it. So again, thank you all. Again, if you want to be on the show, shoot me an email and I'm happy to speak to you. If you don't want to be on the show, shoot me an email. I'm happy to speak to you. I do respond to every email. So even the people who don't want to be on the show, I've gone back and forth with them and spoken to them and exchanged stories and exchanged information and just had cool dialogues with them. So If you're interested, shoot me an email. We'll talk, whether you want to be on the show or not. But I just love hearing the stories. So thank you all. And now we're going to get on to some UFO stories. And this episode came about. I mean, I don't really need an origin story for a show about UFOs, but it's funny. About a month and a half, 2 months ago, I was sitting on my back porch. My apartment has like a little balcony out back, and I was just sitting out there. I believe I was on the phone with my father, and this craft flew right overhead. It was not a UFO. It's not a spaceship. It was not extraterrestrial. It was clearly a plane-like craft, except it had no engine. It was dark out. The lights were weird, but I could see the silhouette against the sky. We're in the city here, so it never gets that dark. The sky is just light pollution, so even in the dark of night, you can see things in the sky. But it was very low. It was right over my house, and it was plane shaped. It had wings and a fuselage and a tail, but it flew over my house. I didn't hear it coming. It just kind of like right over the house. And the only sound it made was the air displacement. So you can kind of hear it pushing the air. And it startled me because it was low. I mean, I couldn't tell how big it was. It was very fast, but it looked like a small plane, maybe an ultralight, maybe something bigger than that, just a little Cessna. But it had no engine that I could hear. It was just very silent. And again, it was just the air displacement that I could hear. Just as it flew over. And by the time I stood up and tried to like catch it in the sky and figure out what it was, it had kind of gone past the other houses, and it was low. It was just very low, probably 50, 60 feet above my house. I mean, it was very low. And for Staten Island, for the city, we are not Manhattan, the city, but we are one of the 5 boroughs of New York City. So it's densely populated here. And some of the stories I'm going to tell you, I think, mention that like you can't be having this stuff in the city. It's a congested airspace. And there are 3 major airports in the area. There's LaGuardia, there's Newark, and there's JFK. So I'm kind of surrounded by 3 major airports. I can see Newark from my rear balcony. I can see the planes taking off and everything. So this plane was weird. I don't know if it was a drone. I don't know if it was a glider, an ultralight, but there was no sound to it. So not a UFO, because it was clearly a plane of some sort. I don't know if it was remote control. Again, I really don't know what it was, but I had done an article years ago for my old blog about 20 Staten Island UFO sightings. So I went back to that database, and I'm going to pull some of those older stories and a few newer ones, and I'm going to just read them out to you guys, give you my thoughts. I have thoughts because some of them are better stories than others, and some of them are clearly not UFOs, but and I'll illustrate that one. These stories are a little bit shorter than like the Bigfoot reports I read from the BFRO. Those can get a little wordy. These, some of them are very short, just a couple of sentences. Not a lot of follow-up from the researchers in the reports. So sometimes there is, sometimes there's not. And I scoured a lot of reports for this because, again, so many of them were just very short, and I didn't want to do too many short ones. I wanted to get some longer ones. Some had photos, some had videos, some didn't. So I was really trying to pick and choose some of the best stories. But these were all Staten Island UFO sightings and ones that I thought were particularly interesting. So let's get to them. Okay, so all of these stories are from the National UFO Reporting Center, and I will put a link in the description below. And you can search by state. You can, find the city, wherever you want to find reports from, and they're listed chronologically, so you can kind of find whatever reports you want to find. And it's a great database. Again, it's whatever the user puts in. So whatever they're reporting, and for whatever reason, the BFRO website, people tend to type more. You're going to see some of these reports are very thin. They're just a couple of sentences. So I apologize in advance, but I did try to pick some longer ones so that we can kind of dig a little deeper. And then there's some shorter ones. And I can give you some thoughts on that, just being a resident of Staten Island. And we can just take it from there. So this first report, this is one of the most recent report on their website from Staten Island. It's from January 20th of 2023. Looks to be about 9:37 at night on Staten Island. So the location is south of the intersection of Richmond Road and Raritan Avenue. So again, you guys can Google search these locations if you're familiar with Staten Island and kind of figure out where these places might be. So duration, approximately 30 seconds. The shape, lights. And I will read the report. And this one has some visuals, so I like that. And we'll get to that after I read the report. So what this person saw was two formations of orange objects seen crossing sky at night. I was taking out the garbage for the next morning pickup at a little past 9:30 p.m. on January 20th, and I happened to look up in the sky towards the ocean, southeast. My attention was drawn to what I thought were three aircraft flying in an odd formation, past and a little higher in perspective than the neighboring rooftops across the street. Each had one orange light with no other lights visible, no navigation or anti-collision lights, etc. While the first formation was moving in a northeast direction, the middle object in the first formation of three made a sharp, sudden dive towards the ground and pulled back up as sharply, rejoining the other two objects in formation. They were followed by a second formation of five additional objects, lights, perhaps 5 to 10 seconds behind the first formation, flying at a similar speed and in the same northeast direction. Also with one orange light each, with no navigation or anti-collision lights visible on any of the group in the second formation. There was no sound from any of the objects in either formation, either during or afterwards. The shape or outline could not be determined in the short time both formations were visible, about 30 seconds plus or minus. Sight of both formations was lost behind trees and other houses, and may have gone behind low clouds in that part of the night sky when I went back to the back of the house to try to regain sight of them, without any luck. Usually, if there are helicopters flying overhead or nearby, they can easily be heard. If there's two or more, the racket is unmistakable. I can vouch for that. Helicopters on Staten Island could be very low, and you clearly know they're helicopters. Small or large aircraft are also unmistakable. I pretty much thought these objects were drones or maybe ultralight aircraft, except that the sky in the New York City area is pretty busy at any given time, and you would have to be a complete idiot to fly in a formation or two at night without navigation or anti-collision lights. I never gave it any real thought. It could be anything other than a man-made event designed to perpetuate a hoax or sheer stupidity, maybe. So his point here is that New York City, there's not a lot of space. There's wires, there's towers, there's larger buildings, smaller buildings, there's three airports surrounding us. A lot of air activity. If you're flying ultralights, which are small little personal planes, almost like gliders with little propellers on them and little engines, but without running lights, without navigation lights, that is very dangerous. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but it's something you think the NYPD would have picked up on and reported on and said, hey, like, these things are happening. They can happen. Please don't be a dumbass and fly ultralights. So as I said, he has some visual aids here. So I'm going to scroll down, and the photos are in the wrong order. So this last photo here is a screenshot taken from Flight Radar 24, which is a cool app. It just shows you any planes in the area, showing the path many aircraft take, also using Highland Boulevard as a navigation aid. Both formations of objects seem to follow the same route. The fuzzy dot is my approximate location. So you can kind of see where on Staten Island he is. I'm further west. You can't see it on this map, but I live further west. But here's the Verrazano Bridge right here, Fort Wadsworth. So this witness lives right around here, right in the Dongan Hills area where my parents used to live. So very interesting. And this would be Highland Boulevard here, approximately. And this, I don't know what this is. He's saying that second photo is a portion of the FAA sectional chart, which seems to indicate a generalized path for aircraft to take using Highland Boulevard as possible navigation aid. And the last photo is of the neighborhood. He removed the overhead wires and darkened the sky to illustrate the objects and the direction. So this is Photoshop. I mean, this is clearly not as he saw them. He didn't take this photo while he was witnessing them. It was 9:30 in January. There wouldn't be this much light in the sky. So he darkened the sky and kind of popped these lights in. And they're interesting. You know, they're up in the sky. It's hard to say what these are. It's probably hard for him to even estimate their size. You know, you're just seeing lights in a dark sky. It's hard to tell how far away they are. Are they close? Are they far? Are they large? Are they small? I just know of lots of people who've seen these orange-ish amber orbs of light that seem to operate intelligently. And some of them report them as small, and we'll get to a report like that later. And some of them see them way up in the sky, and they just seem to be aircraft. So who knows? But I had seen something very similar to this. I believe I mentioned this in one of my older episodes. I can't remember which episode, so I apologize. But I was out for a walk one night a couple of years ago, and I had seen this here essentially. It was these, three orangish lights, and they were near power lines. And as I was walking, I could see them out of the corner of my eye, and they were kind of there, and then they kind of shot very quickly away. And I didn't know where they went, but it kind of startled me because I was like, what the hell was that? They looked small. They looked like they were behind a house, almost like they were looking in the window. Very strange. And again, I'm not the only one who has seen these things. I mean, my glimpse of it was very fleeting. I know some other people who have had much longer encounters with these intelligent orbs of light, and they've sat and watched them for a while. For me, it was a very fleeting glimpse, but I know others who have seen them kind of move window to window, like it's looking in the house, like very, very creepy stuff. So don't know what to make of this one, but again, this is like near where my parents used to live, where he's seeing these, and just it's an odd formation of lights to have seen. There are lots of airports around here, but you very rarely see this amount of aircraft in one section of sky at the same time. I mean, maybe you'll see two. You'll see one that's very close, and then one that's much further away, and they just might be like circling the airport waiting to land. But to see this many lights in one little section of sky, I mean, this looks like it only goes over like 3-4 houses here. To see 8 lights like that is bonkers. So very interesting report. Let me know what you guys think about this one, but I appreciate that he did this like little Photoshop illustration. It's not a photo, but it gives you an idea of what this guy saw. So very cool. Okay, so this second story, also a longer one, again, comparatively, relatively speaking, to some of the stories on here, but no visual aids for this one. But I'll read this one. This one took place in 2015, November 26th of 2015, so right around this time of year. And I will read what this person saw. Orange spherical pulsating objects descending from sky. So kind of similar to what the last story was, these orange balls of light. Ate Thanksgiving dinner and went out onto my back porch for a smoke, followed by my 2 sons. My oldest son, 4 years old, points towards the moon and says, "What's that?" And I look up, preparing myself to say, "It's the moon," when I notice 2 stars zigzagging left to right from each other. Like so, and then there's like a little text description here of things moving, meeting up and then moving apart. So it looks like they were kind of getting close to each other and then moving back. Going apart. This is going on about 4 inches away from the moon's right side if you were to use actual inches and point it at the sky. So he's trying his best to sort of describe, if you're looking at the moon, and how far away from the moon these things were. Then all of a sudden, they dropped rapidly and were now about 100 feet off the ground in formation, one behind the other, to which I started yelling at all my guests in the house to come outside quickly. My friend and my wife came out, and we witnessed 2 spheres glowing orange and pulsating, kind of like they were made of flame, the flickering type of light movement, and my friend was trying to see if they had the usual plane lights, red and green, somewhere within these crafts, and they did not. They just stood there for about 2 minutes, then they proceeded to drift slowly towards the ocean. This is all happening on top of Father Capodanno Street, right by the beach. It's Father Capodanno Boulevard. The drift was going in an easterly direction parallel to the Verrazano Bridge. In other words, these spheres were heading towards Brooklyn, the Bay Ridge area, which I am from Bay Ridge, so shout out to Bay Ridge. By the time they reached the waterfront level, the first globe sped away and became a small dot real fast and disappeared. Then the second one followed suit in the same manner. Absolutely. No sound, and we made a remark about it because there was a plane flying real high in the sky with a contrail, and we could hear the plane very well. These spheres were 100 feet off the ground and made no noise. They only slickered in a bizarre way, maybe slithered in a bizarre way, and they were opaque orange, kind of like a flame of a campfire, but solid spheres. The most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life, and I pray that there were many witnesses because the bridge is right there, and it was very busy because at around 9 p.m., the mall opened for a huge sale and people were out and about. So Black Friday, this was Thanksgiving night, and just weird to see, again, these orange balls of light, and the zigzagging part reminds me of John's encounter at Bantam Lake. I will link to that as well uh, in the description below. But the zigzagging, the dancing lights, like people see these lights and they're not just, a plane kind of moves in a certain direction. It doesn't shift direction quickly or abruptly. It doesn't dance. It doesn't zigzag. I mean, a plane, if it's going to turn, it's a very slow, subtle turn. Even jet planes can't just stop on a dime and then at a right angle change direction. So lots of things interesting about this. I think it's just interesting that they're, again, orange balls of light. They are zigzagging. They're kind of playing with each other, like getting close to one another and then separating. Just very weird. Moving out towards Bay Ridge. I don't know what that means. I mean, there is a fort at the foot of the Verrazano Bridge here on Staten Island. That's Fort Wadsworth. And there's a fort at the other side of the Verrazano Bridge on the Bay Ridge, Brooklyn side, Fort Hamilton. So there are forts, but these are not, they're not active military installations. I mean, personnel will live there, but it's not like they have aircraft there or hangars or weaponry. These are more historic forts rather than active military forts with military grade equipment. There's no stealth fighters at Fort Hamilton. So just very, very, very odd. But I liked this one too, because it's just very similar to the first one. Many, many years before, it was 7 years before, 6 years before, but very interesting to me that it's the orange lights. 8 years. I'm sorry, my math is terrible, but very, very cool. And again, differentiating them between planes. You could hear the planes, and yeah, you can in the city. You can hear the planes, even though it's loud here. When there's a plane up there, you can hear it unless it's very, very high. So another cool story. I really like this one. So what do you guys think? And here, like I mentioned earlier, there's the little follow-up from the organization here, and it just says, we spoke briefly, and that's it. I don't know what else they had to contribute to that, if they did do any further investigation or follow-up, but who knows. And again, with Bigfoot sightings, you can kind of go to the area, you can kind of scope it out, look for footprints. If you can get there quickly enough, you can just scope out the area and say, is this a habitat where a Bigfoot could live? With UFOs, it's much tougher. It's just the sky. So who knows? And it's very hard to say where these things were. A Bigfoot going behind a tree, you can pinpoint that tree and say, okay, this creature was at this branch level and it went behind that specific tree. UFOs, it's much tougher to tell because it's a light in the sky, and you don't know if this is something the size of a tennis ball or something the size of an airplane. It's too far away. So perspective and distance and all that can be a little wonky. So let's move on to another story. Okay, so here's the third story. This one is a long one too. A little different direction this time. This is more of like a white triangle versus orange orbs of light. And there's a little bit of weirdness with the story, but I'll read it and let you guys make up your mind. This is from April of 2015. Duration about an hour. So that's a long time to see this object. So let me read what this person writes. Bright white triangle appeared over Staten Island for an hour. On Saturday, April 18th, 2015, at around 8 p.m. Eastern Time, I looked out the window to watch the stars come out. I noticed a brilliant white light in a tall triangular shape in the northwest sector of the sky from where I was located in the house atop a hill in the West Brighton neighborhood of Staten Island. The light object was much brighter than the stars appearing, even brighter than a planet would normally look from the naked eye. Its shape was like a thin Christmas tree. I observed a red spot at the top of the structure, white triangular long base, and 3 white dots positioned under the base. From my perspective, the form was at least 5 times larger than the other visible stars, and at least 2 to 3 times bigger than planets I have seen in the night sky. The object appeared to be stationary. I saw it scrunch down in size briefly to approximately 2/3 of its original size. I was viewing it from inside the window at this time and altered my position to see if it was a reflection or a distortion due to the screen, but I was seeing it from the clear pane of the window above the half screen in any case. So she's saying, the windows sometimes are cut in half. You'd have the bottom pane and the top pane, and the bottom one will have a screen because if you want to open it the bugs don't come in, but the top, there's never a screen there. So she's saying she's looking through the top part. I went outside to the front porch to view it again. It was still there, maybe 10 minutes had passed, and had a soft white halo around it. It stayed in the same place as I studied it from the porch, with no obstruction blocking or changing its image, as far as I could see. The tall, triangular, brilliant white object with the red top beacon outshined the visible stars in the sky, as well as looking much larger than them, same size as listed before. It remained in the same spot, as far as I could tell, for the duration of 5 minutes that I watched it. I went back inside and checked it from the window. No movement. I decided to check on the light shape the next hour, and when I looked out at 9 p.m., the object was gone. On Tuesday, 4/21/15, I saw what appeared to be the same object in the same basic spot. It did look smaller, and this time I saw it slowly move away towards and above Bayonne, New Jersey skies, a bit further to the left of where I first saw it on Saturday, 4/18. It continued to move on a steady course, appearing to decrease in size, though I think that was due to it leaving the vicinity. I lost sight of it when it moved to the left, and my view was blocked by a neighboring building across the street. So I had talked about a UFO I had seen years ago in an episode here called the Black Triangle over Brooklyn. I'll link to it in the description below. But I had done the same thing. I was in my car when I saw this object, and I had to kind of get out of my car, and I walked up a block or two just to make sure it was like in the sky and make sure it was really there. It wasn't on my windshield. It wasn't just something hanging from a building. Like it was just, weird to me. So I did move around a lot just to sort of change my point of view and see if this thing changed how it looked, and it never did. What I saw was like a black triangle, a flat triangle, so kind of down like that. What she's seeing is more of a tall, thin Christmas tree shape, but interesting. The follow-up note: witness is well known to the organization, and we consider her to be quite reliable. So I don't know what that means. Maybe she's made a lot of reports before. That can be a red flag. It could not be a red flag. I don't know. I don't know what the other reports are. I don't know what they mean by well known. Has she made 1 or 2 other reports, or is she making 20 other reports? Because I do question when people see these things like regularly. But it's an interesting thing. It's this white triangle with a red light on top. So it does sound almost aircraft-like, but also stationary for too long. So this one, I don't know what to make of it. It could be an airplane, the white lights, the red light. I'm not sure, but it's changing size. There's a halo around it. That's weird to me. So who knows? But I thought this one was interesting. No visuals on this one either, but a bright white triangle. So not sure what to make of that. All right, this next story is interesting. This one happened over in New Dorp, and this is from November 23rd of 2021, so a little bit more recently. And this is more orbs, and he's got some pictures in a video here, which I'll show you. And it took me a few times watching this to kind of see what he was talking about, because, he's shooting it from inside of a car, and there's reflections, so it's kind of hard to pinpoint, but I will try to point these out as best I can. But let me just read what he says first. 3 bright orbs in a triangle formation seen in the sky during the span of 1 hour. While driving home, I noticed 3 bright orbs, yellowish tint, in the sky. They were spread in a triangle formation and were stationary for several minutes. The orb to the top left then began slowly moving independently, with a green flicker occurring as well. There were other aircraft in the sky, but none that were in the immediate area of these orbs. Around 1 hour later, while out on a run, I noticed a 3-orb light formation again, also in a triangle shape. This time, the 3 orbs were completely stationary. The orbs were in roughly the same position in the sky as when I was driving home. Attached are 2 images and 1 video. The first 2 images presents the orbs as I was driving home. The video is taken shortly after and captures the orb moving away from the triangle formation, and the third image shows the triangle orbs as I saw them during my run, which was around 1 hour after my initial encounter. So let me just scroll down here, because I'm only seeing 1 image. So here's the image, and it's a little, this is what I thought he was talking about at first. And if you watch the video, you're going to see this. This looks like reflection on the inside against the glass of maybe his phone or whatever. This is what he's talking about here. So there's 1, 2, 3. Very interesting. And this is a lot of people talk about like the black triangle UFOs, and usually there's a light at each point of the triangle, so you can really kind of see like the triangle here. But he's saying these lights moved independently. So very interesting here. This again catches your eye a little bit easier, but it's a red herring. So this is what he's talking about here. These lights, and then there's a video here. So again, you're going to see these reflections here. These are going to be distracting, these bluish streaks, but I believe he's talking about this light here, this one here, and then this one down here. These are just street lights. So this video is from when he's driving. I'm going to play this so that you can see it. Let me just actually rewind it to the beginning. Nope. And go up to the top here. So you can see it's a little shaky, but 1, 2, 3. You can see these lights in formation. Again, it's tough to tell in the video, but I'm not seeing any navigation lights. I don't see the red and green blinking. He would have seen them as he was filming, but they don't seem to be there. So again, sorry for the shakiness of the video, but again, you can see there's some reflections here that are a little distracting, but 1, 2, 3, those are the lights he's talking about. So very interesting. If anybody, I'm going to link to these down below so you can find all of these. And if you want to watch the video for yourself on your own computer or on your own phone, you can watch them. But very interesting triangle formation, and interesting that he saw them twice within like an hour. So he's driving and then he goes home and he goes out for a run and they're still there. Could it have been planes in a holding pattern? Possibly. UFOs at night are just so hard to really pull apart, because it's just lights in the sky. You don't always see the navigation lights on a plane until they turn a certain way. And so it can be tricky, but interesting that he took video. And again, you try to give people the benefit of the doubt that they know the difference between airplanes and things that are just a little different, and catch your eye, catch your mind, catch your eye and say, hey, your brain says, hey, that's not right. Something's up with this. I need to look at this a little further. So very cool. So again, only the one photo here, but you can see the triangle lights. And let me move this video back just a little bit. And you can see again, 1, 2, 3, these 3 lights here. So triangular formation, don't know what to make of it, but interesting nonetheless. Okay, so here's another one from 2015. This is from late January 2015. Looks like a quick encounter, just about a minute, left a trail. So I will read this one. Mr. Davenport, I work nights. On my way home, as usual, last night at 03:38 hours, so 3:38 in the morning, I observed a strange cobalt blue, very bright light streak across the night sky very quickly. I was traveling east to west on Forest Hill Road between Holden Boulevard and Jasper Street, Staten Island. And I'm on Forest Hill Road a lot, so I know where this is. Out of the driver's left side window, the light caught my eye as it streaked past my vehicle, and I watched it either disappear or burn out while looking through the front windshield. It was also traveling east to west, just over the treetops. I was completely sober, LOL, as I said, just driving home from work. It reminded me of a shooting star. I've seen many meteor showers in August near Lake George growing up, but this was different. It was much closer to the ground, fireworks height, but I've never seen this color in fireworks. The tip of it appeared very dark black. The body was an extremely bright cobalt blue with a long, bright white tail that widened and sprayed out as it streaked across the sky. No one else was driving on the road at this time. The night sky was very overcast. I could not see any other lights, no stars, no moon either. It happened so fast, there was not enough time to take a picture with my phone. I was listening to Coast to Coast on the radio, and my window was rolled up, so I never heard a thing. I'm leaning more towards something celestial, not ET, but I've never seen those vivid bright colors in the night sky before. I would love to know what I saw. I've made a report. I'm guessing he means never. I've never made a report like this in my life. So I like this one because, I mean, there's kind of good and bad here. He's listening to Coast, so he's maybe got UFOs on the brain when he's seeing this thing. It could have just been a shooting star or something burning up in the atmosphere. But at the same time, he's saying he's leaning more towards something celestial, just that this was maybe just a meteorite or, shooting star or just space debris. burning up in the atmosphere. So not particularly impressive, especially with the black part of it. He's saying that the body, the tip of it, appeared to be black, and then there was a trail behind it. So this does make me wonder if it was something just burning up in the atmosphere. Very interesting. No one's going to be shooting fireworks off at that time, but Forest Hill Road, I drive that all the time. I'm very familiar with it. So I thought this one was a cool one to mention because I drive that a lot, not at night, but next time I'm being driven on Forest Hill Road at night, I will take a look at that and see. Okay, so here's another one, and now we're getting into like the shorter narratives. So these next few are going to fly a little bit more quickly. This one happened in Eltingville. He was in his, or she was in their backyard facing the planet Jupiter in the Eltingville section of Staten Island. Cigar shape, 10 seconds. So they write, I was filming the stars, sky watching, as I always do, and this object flew by at a steady pace, not super fast. It was totally silent. I was filming the sky at night, and at 4:06 a.m., God bless, I cannot get up at 4:06 a.m. to look at the night sky. I was wrapping up. I took the camera off the tripod. I was filming Jupiter, and all of a sudden, I noticed this cigar-shaped object fly past. My camera was in the perfect spot, so I just followed it. I said to myself, that's wild. I had this feeling that I was going to see something, so you hear me saying to myself, I knew it. I felt it was going to happen. I said it. I just had this gut feeling to look in that direction, and I'm so glad I did. So I'm stumbling over the words here because the narrative is not grammatically typed out really well. But he's seeing this cigar-shaped object, or she, I don't know. He's saying, you hear me saying this to myself. So I don't know if there was video of this that just didn't make it onto the site because there's nothing down here. So don't know if there was something included and it just didn't publish or what. But there's another one from Eltingville, and I'm going to get to that one right after this. But, it also says like he was expecting to see something. So again, maybe he had UFOs on the brain. Sometimes when you want to see something like that, you look up into the sky long enough looking for a UFO, you're going to see something that you can't explain. So maybe that's all this was. Okay, so here's another short one, but it's also from Eltingville, on the beach of Tennyson Avenue. So I'm familiar with this area. It's kind of right off Highland. It's down by the water on the south side of Staten Island. And this one is from July last year, 2022. So I picked this one for a reason, not just because it's Eltingville, but I'm a ufologist. I host Unidentified S4 YouTube channel. I was filming, and it flew over me completely silent, slow moving. I filmed it. 3 orbs in triangle forms flew over my head on the beach as I was sky watching, flying north-northeast, clear night. I also pulled the ISS chart, SpaceX satellite charts, UAV charts, and it was none of the above. So local ufologist. So my neighbor, I just wanted to give him a shout out, but I'll link to their channel below. Just help each other out here, local. But again, 3 orbs in a triangle formation. So it sounds like that other one where the guy saw orbs. And this one, it says changed color. So don't know what colors they were, but characteristics here, it says changed color. So interesting, but again, interesting that people seeing orbs, and it's a lot of these triangles or 3, the 3 orbs, triangle shape. This 3 number keeps coming up, and that's interesting to me. So even the very first story, the first thing he saw was not a triangle, but it was 3 orange orbs moving together. So make of that what you will. So we're going back to 2015 again. It seems like a very popular year. A lot of stories from 2015. This is from Staten Island. And Star of Bethlehem seen in sky over entrance to New York Harbor. Took my German Shepherd for her usual middle-of-the-night backyard walk. My yard faces east, looking over the entrance of Atlantic Ocean into New York Harbor. Almost a bright half-moon, oblong-shaped, was to the southern sky. I know this sounds crazy, but above the normal air traffic patterns was the Star of Bethlehem, shining brighter than the moon. So North Star, I'm guessing. I ran inside, got my wife, pointed up to it, and went from a bright white light to a greenish look, and in a second shot over to due south under the moon, then turned reddish, shot over to the west, then turned bluish, then shot over to the north with a yellowish look, and then right back to its original east position. This thing was way up there and was huge. It moved at impossible speeds around the entire sky and not one plane in sight. So again, this is interesting because it's changing color, it's zipping around, it's not doing what a normal plane would do, and planes don't change color. And it reminds me of, I had mentioned Dustin earlier and Josh, and there was a time a few years back we were up in the Adirondacks, and I will link to that video down in the description below. It's also in our Adirondack section. But we had walked down to Fawn Lake. We were camping at Fawn Lake. We walked down to the water, and probably shortly before midnight, but we looked up in the sky and we see this star moving very fast, and it was purple, and then it changed to a white, and then it kept moving, and then it disappeared. So the much too fast for a plane. Again, it's dead quiet out there, and we didn't hear any engine noise. But the fact that it changed color, like the entire thing, it wasn't shifting color. It was one color, and then it changed color. So interesting. So that's why I picked this story. It just sounded like that you have this thing. And again, it reminds me of John's story with the object kind of zigzagging, dancing. You hear a lot of these adjectives with these lights. They zigzag, they dance, they just move around each other. So not sure what to make of this, but apparently his wife saw it too. Number of observers too. They saw it for between 3 and 6 minutes. So, and the moon was out. So very interesting. About 2 a.m. So not a lot of people are going to be out, but they were out walking their dog and saw some strange things in the sky. Very cool. All right, this is another short one, but I wanted to mention this one. This one happened, looks like just shy of 11 o'clock at night. Again, 2015. Something was happening in 2015 here on Staten Island, near the Verrazano Bridge. It was a sphere, and driving towards the Verrazano Bridge, bright silver sphere like a blob of mercury, visible for 1 to 2 seconds, zipped above us and same direction as we were driving. No sound, appeared very fast, unable to judge height. Apparent size somewhere between a golf and tennis ball. Checked with the passenger who also saw it. Time of sighting is plus or minus 10 minutes. So they're saying here in the report about 10:40 at night. So maybe it was 10:50, maybe it was 10:30, but after 10, probably close to 10:30, 10:45. But they're seeing something the size of a golf or tennis ball. So something very small. And again, like I said, I know people who've seen these orbs of light, and you hear it on other podcasts too. Sometimes it's in the woods, sometimes it's in the city, but these orbs that just seem like intelligently controlled, like craft, but they're small. They're baseball size or softball size. Sometimes it's like basketball size, but they're small. They're not aircraft. They're almost like probes. So this one just reminded me of that. I mean, it wasn't glowing. It was more of like a blob of mercury. So liquid metal. Who knows? But just very strange story. So our penultimate story here, this is from 2021, and I'll read what this person says, and I'll share my thoughts. On Sunday, July 18th, 2021, I was sitting on Midland Beach on Staten Island, and this is kind of near New Dorp, which I mentioned earlier. So again, if you're not familiar with Staten Island, Midland Beach is down that way. Not exactly right there, but close. Southern side of the island. With my back to the water, I was gazing at the different layers and colors of the clouds. An airplane made its way across the sky on this bright sunny evening about 5:20 p.m. I give permission to use the photo sent by email described below. There's no photo here, so I apologize. They just didn't publish it, I guess. About 15 or 20 minutes later, a black aircraft flew much faster than an ordinary plane and caught my attention. I quickly raised my cell phone toward the sky and took some pictures, hoping to catch a shot of the aircraft. It was black and thicker in the middle, with smaller sections attached above and below the middle. It flew south to north very quickly and lower than the previous airplane. So I wish there was a photo here because it sounds really cool, but it caught my attention because he's saying a black aircraft. And that's kind of what I saw. I saw like this black triangle. And when I was in Bay Ridge, I was looking out, and again, it's hard to gauge distance, but when I was seeing what I saw, if I had to guess, I would have said it was hovering over Staten Island. It was not over Bay Ridge. It was way out there, and it was probably, I mean, what I saw, it was small in the sky, but it was very distant. So probably a much bigger craft. So very interesting that he had a black aircraft, flew much faster than an ordinary plane, caught his attention. Sad that there's no picture here, but sometimes pictures will betray you, and that's going to be the final story here. So let's get to that. So this last story, I picked this one for a few reasons. It's got visual um, evidence here, or at least a visual here. It's near Amboy Road and Page Avenue. So this is not right near the conference house, but it's down towards that way. And I've talked about the conference house on this channel before. So very short report, but it's the photos that do the talking. And I'm going to talk about the photos. I've been noticing contrails in the sky, took a picture, and sure enough, I guess enough is not there, round-shaped object. So let's look at the UFO that they captured. So here's the contrail, and here's the round object. And I believe there's a second picture. So contrail, there's the object. And I have to debunk this. This is not a UFO. This object here on the left side of the photo is a lens flare. This is the sun. You have the sun right here, and this is just an artifact of the sun. And it happens. It just, you'll always see it kind of on the opposite side of the photo. So when you take a picture, it'll be the same relation to the sun. And when you have a very bright object like that, it could be the moon. And I have dozens of photos like this. I have one from the Adirondacks where it was like a foggy morning and the sun is coming up and there's just one of these green orbs right there. And it's not an orb. It's not a UFO. It's just a lens artifact from the sun being so bright. When you take these pictures with these cameras, it just puts this little artifact there, and that's just refracting and reflecting off of the lens. So not a UFO, this one. Contrails, I don't believe there's anything to contrails. It's just condensation, and the conspiracies around contrails are just very bizarre because contrails have been around since aircraft, and people believe that they're putting stuff in the atmosphere to control us and mind control and depopulate the earth. And it's been going on for decades and decades and decades, and it has not happened yet. So I don't know why they would still doing the contrails if it doesn't work. Just put it in the drinking water, put it in our flu shots or your 27th COVID booster. I don't know. So contrails don't interest me really. This is a light artifact just on the lens from the sun being so bright. I guarantee you if the sun was not in this photo, that never would have been there. But you take a photo of the sun, you're going to get these little artifacts. So that will wrap up our tour of Staten Island UFO stories. So I hope you guys enjoy this one. It's just cool for me to know like people are seeing stuff out here. There's not enough woods here for Bigfoot. I've done a lot of ghost hunting here on Staten Island. Again, there's so much air traffic out here. It's hard to sky watch and look for UFOs because you can barely see the stars here in the city. And with 3 airports, there's just tons of aircraft and they're just airplanes circling, waiting to land. So it's tough. It's tough for UFO watching, but I enjoy the reports where it's clearly not an aircraft, orange orbs of light or triangular formations or things zipping around, and or something at like 3:30 in the morning when most air traffic is a little bit lessened, and you might be able to actually see something in the sky. So again, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you've ever seen a UFO and you want to talk about it, you want to come on the show, you just want to share your story with me anonymously, and I'll never mention it to anybody. Jason at oddanduntold.com. I'll put the email address up there, but that's how you can find me. The link is always in the description for these videos, Jason at oddanduntold.com. So shoot me an email. Let me know what you've seen, what you've experienced. We can talk about it on air, off air, whatever you like. But love hearing from you guys. So hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll do more like this in the future. I just been focusing a lot on Bigfoot and ghosts lately. I haven't done UFOs in a while. So, and I love UFOs. I kind of feel like they've fallen by the wayside on this podcast. So wanted to give some love to the UFOs and the ETs, our new alien overlords. So again, everybody, until next week, listen to River Send after this. Rock and roll.